You better watch out. You better not cry. You better not pout. Because I'm telling you why. Day 8 of 25 days of Christmas comics starts right now. And I'm your host, the Dude Without Fear. Today's comic we will be reading from is The Incredible Hulk number 378. It is one of the only Christmas stories involving the Hulk in his own book that I'm aware of, and it is written by Peter David. And if you're a fan of the Incredible Hulk and you've never read Peter David's Incredible Hulk run, you are missing out. And I highly recommend you remedying that as soon as possible. So our story starts out. Rick Jones, the Hulk's best friend, is in a hospital and he's walking down the hall, and these two kids are getting in a spat in the pediatric ward. They're one kid's kind of chubby, the other kid's just a jerk, and they're kind of just at each other's throats. And the orderly's trying to calm them down. And she's like, "It's Christmas, and you're in a hospital. These are two great reasons why you should not be fighting right now." And then so Rick Jones tries to intervene. He's like, "Hey, you guys need to be nice to each other. Leave each other alone." And the chubbier kid is like, "Hey, I know you. You're Rick Jones. You're that Super Pals guy." And he's like, "Yeah, that's me. So I know what I'm talking about." And he's like, "Let me tell you a story about how teasing can make things go terribly wrong." And so he tells him a story about back in the days of when the Hulk was gray. The Rhino is sitting in an alley and he is covered up with this blanket and he's very sad looking. And there's some hobos behind him. They've got a fire going in a trash can. And when he hears them, he gets up and he's like, "Excuse me, can I share your fire? It's not that I'm cold, but I'd just like somebody to talk to." And they freak out. They're like, "It's the Rhino. He's a super villain. Run!" And Rhino's like, he can't stand it anymore. He's stuck in this Rhino costume. Can't take it off. He can't hide from the Rhino persona. And so he's fed up. The hobos run out and they run into the Hulk. And they're like, "It's another gray monster." It's like the town's crawling with them. And so Hulk gets in the van with Rick and Clay Quartermain, who's an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., and they drive off. Rhino is like, "I've had it. I'll go knock over another bank. That always puts me in a better mood." And so Rick and them's like, "Hulk, what were those guys talking about? Two monsters?" Hulk's like, "Oh, who knows? Bums like that see two of everything." Rhino kind of puts himself in like a fetal position, and he's like, "Great, now the Hulk's in town, and if I do anything as the Rhino, he'll be all over me, and he'll probably beat me just like before. I'm so depressed." So Rhino is really having a bad Christmas. So the next day, he was at his absolute lowest that he's ever been. And he's trying to bum money on the streets, but no one wants to give him anything because he was a super villain. And then he spotted one of those Santas ringing his bell, and he decided that he was going to try something because Santa didn't have any trouble getting money, but Rhino did. So Rhino beats up Santa Claus and takes his suit and puts it on over the Rhino suit. And so he's standing by the donation bucket and ringing his bell, and people were donating. And as he's doing this, a man comes out of the department store that he's standing in front of, He's like, "You, sir, a moment of your time, please." And he's like, "I didn't do nothing." He's like, "No, but it's what you can do. Our mall Santa Claus has injured himself, fell down, drunk actually, and we need a substitute fast. See, the kids are lined up already." And Rhino's like, "You want a supervillain for this?" He's like, "Don't be ridiculous. We want you, Santa Claus, a villain? How absurd." He's leading Rhino to the Santa display, and the kids see Santa and they're like, "Look, it's Santa! Hooray! Oh, Santa!" And like it brings a tear to Rhino's eyes because it's the first time that he's ever been greeted with glee and joyfulness. And he's very happy about that. So he sits in the chair, and as soon as he sits in the chair, it breaks, and they all, cause he's a big guy, they all laugh at him. The mall guy's like, "I'm so sorry, we'll get you another chair immediately. It'll be reinforced." And then they get him a chair, and he's doing the Santa thing, and this kid wearing a Spider-Man shirt is telling him that he wants all these action figures. He's like, "I want all these hero action figures. I want Batman and Superman and Spider-Man and Captain America." And he's like, "Don't you want any supervillain action figures? Like maybe the Rhino toy?" And he's like, "Who needs villains? They just get beat up all the time and they're dumb and ugly." And it irritates the Rhino, so he's, holding the kid up, and the kid's like, "Hey," and then he's like, "Wait a minute, you got a horn underneath your hat. You're the Rhino." And he threatens him. He's like, "If you tell anybody, I'll kill you." And he immediately, of course, goes and tells his mom, but his mom doesn't believe him. But Rick Jones, Bruce Banner, and Clay Quartermain are in the mall, and they hear him say this, and they're like, "The Rhino." That alerts them that something could be going on. And so Rhino continues to do the Santa thing. And this one kid's like, "I want a Nintendo with a Ninja Turtles game, and you could give me a new bike, and then you could give me..." And Rhino's just fed up with it. And he's like, "Give, give, give. You want everything handed to you. Why not do what I do? Take stuff. See it? Want it? Take it." And he's like, "See that bike over there? That luggage? That bowling ball? Take them. You want to be a wimp all your life? Make a statement. Take a stand. Take 2 stands. Take a whole podium." And so the store manager runs up to calm Rhino down because he's the only Santa Claus they've got, and he's telling these kids some terrible advice. And Clay Quartermain and Rick are like, I don't know about that guy. Something's off." And Rick's like, "Hey, where's Bruce? Have you seen him?" He's like, "Oh man, is it getting close to sundown?" Because back in Grey Hulk days, when the sun set, Hulk came out. It was kind of like a werewolf thing, when night fell, he became the Hulk. And so we cut to Bruce Banner, who's running into a bathroom stall, and he changes into the Hulk. And then we cut back to the Rhino, who has a huge line of kids waiting to sit in his lap and tell him what they want for Christmas. And at the back of the line is this little girl, and she says, "Mommy, is that man up there really and truly Santa Claus?" And her mom says, "Absolutely, Jenny, but be patient a little longer." Then we cut to the Rhino, who has a kid in his lap, who is telling him that he's a terrible Santa, and he's like, "I bet your beard's even fake," and he jabs him in the eye and rips off his beard. And he's like, "I knew it." So after he takes off his beard, the kid's like, "I bet you're a supervillain, because supervillains are big and dumb and ugly, and no one is bigger or dumber or uglier than you." And Rhino was like, "That's it, I've had it." And the kid kicks him and hurts himself. And he's like, "Your foot hurts? Good. Let's have the rest of your body match it." And he just throws this kid, and the Hulk catches him. He's like, "Step aside, kid." The kid goes, "Who are you?" Hulk said, "The spirit of fractures yet to come." Rhino sees Hulk and he charges at him, and they get in a big fight. And they're fighting all through the mall, and they're tearing up everything left and right. And in the middle of the fight, they say, "Excuse me, I think that I can put an end to this." And it's this woman from the cookie store. She says, "I'm Donna Stragus of Donna Stragus Exquisite Cookies. Our motto is, we got your cookies right here. Instead of fighting, why not try these delicious chocolate chip cookies?" And so Rhino picks one up and takes a bite, and he goes, "These macadamia nuts?" And she goes, "Why, yes, they are." And he smashes the cookie pan and says, "I hate macadamia nuts." Rhino and Hulk fight all through the store, and Rick and Clay Quartermain try to interfere, and Clay Quartermain says, "Freeze, I'm an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D." and Rhino says, "Oh yeah, good, I've never killed one of those before," and disarms him, and is about to beat him up, and Rick tries to stop him to no avail. Hulk taps Rhino on the shoulder, and we turns around, and Hulk's wearing Santa's hat and Santa's beard, and he says, "Ho ho ho," and he punches the Rhino, and they continue their fight, and they're just waylaying on each other. Rhino charges the Hulk, and his horn actually punctures the Hulk and hurts him. And he's like, "I did it. See, I tried to do something decent, tried to be a nice guy, but they didn't want that. No, they wanted this instead. They wanted..." And then the little girl shows up. It reminds me a lot of Cindy Lou Who showing up to the Grinch. And she says, Santa, why are you hurting this gray man?" Because, "I thought you were good. I thought you were supposed to help people. My mommy said you were really Santa, but maybe you aren't. Maybe there isn't any Santa after all. And Mommy lied." And Rhino's kind of stuck, and he's just like, "Well, your mother was, she was telling the truth." And Hulk's like, "What?" And Rhino says, "You see this other guy? He was, and Hulk goes, naughty?" And Rhino's like, "Yeah, naughty. But now he's gonna be, and Hulk goes, nice?" And Rhino goes, "That's it." And Hulk says, "Yeah, we're both gonna be nice. Watch." And they smile at the girl. And then the girl's mom comes over to her and tells her to get away from those guys as quickly as she can. And she tells her, "No, Mommy, it's okay. This is Santa. And this man here is Santa's helper, right?" And Hulk's like, "Right." And she says, "See, Mommy, you were right. See?" And then Rick Jones says, "Yes, Virginia, there is a..." And Hulk and Rhino at the same time say, "Shut up." So the Rhino and the Hulk cooperated rather than wreck a little girl's beliefs. Clay and I were proud to see them that way, and even though the Hulk was a little grumpy about it, he did manage to sneak in a little Christmas cheer. And Rick finishes his story and asks the kids, "What does that story tell you, huh?" And the chubby kid that Rick was standing up for at the beginning kicks him in the shin, and he says, "It tells us that you're a big dumb lying duty head." And the kids cheer on the chubby kid, and they're like, "Yeah, woo, way to go." And Rick's like, "Why do I even bother?" Rhino is at the lowest point of his life. He's super depressed, not in the Christmas spirit whatsoever. And when he starts to participate in playing Santa, he experiences some of that Christmas joy because those kids lit up when he came out as Santa Claus. And, that made him feel nice inside. That made him feel happy, and he's not felt that way in a long time. And while that feeling didn't continue, he chose at the end not to spoil Christmas for that little girl. Not to, he could have easily shattered her belief in Santa Claus, but he chose not to. And so I think that him participating in that event, even though he didn't necessarily want to, helped him to do a good thing for this little girl. So even if you don't feel like participating in some festivities this year, it might be good for you to do it anyway, because participating in some festivities might give you a little bit of that Christmas spirit. And if anything, if you've got loved ones that want to see you at these said events, then doing it for them might make their Christmas a little special. So that's all that I've got for tonight. I thank you for tuning in. Join me back here tomorrow for day 9 of 25 Days of Christmas Comics. Let me know in the comments what you think about the program so far. Let me know some of your favorite Christmas stories. I would love to know what they are. And maybe I've already touched on them. Maybe I'm about to touch on them. I've still got a lot of Christmas comics left to cover. But most importantly, take care of one another, love each other, and be merry. And I'll see you tomorrow. Good night.